Hi, welcome to Scaling at Speed in the Startup World. I'm Christina Puder. I'm a Senior Product Manager at Deel. And before we get started, I just want to tell you a little bit about me and a little bit about Deel. So I spent the first 6 months of my time at Deel feeling like a lost imposter before I turned into feeling like a credible leader. And my goal today is to help other women get to that feeling faster. So a bit about me. I identify as a very proud Texan, a Mexican American, and the first person in my family to graduate from college. I'm now a senior product manager at Deel, where I lead our payments team. And Deel is a startup that makes it really easy to hire and pay anyone, anywhere in the world. It has grown incredibly fast and has been a very exciting adventure for me so far. I used to think that fast growth was maybe double-digit growth, like 10% or 20%, or maybe even doubling your growth, growing by 100% or tripling. But last year, Deel grew from $4 million in revenue to $50 million in revenue. So not quite 10%, 20%, or 100%, but a lot more percents than that. And that's made it a crazy fun adventure to be on, to be part of that journey. When I've started at other companies, I've had, a couple weeks of everything laid out for me of what, who to shadow and what to learn and all the things to read. And by day 2 at Deel, I had people messaging me on Slack, asking me really legitimate questions that I wanted to go find the answers to. And so it's a really fast moving place. And I want to share the things that I've learned that have helped me really get up to speed and get started at a company that's moving so quickly. So I have six pieces to go through. And if any of this resonates with you, if you have questions, if you have things you want to add, feel free to add it into the chat along the way. And feel free to connect with me on LinkedIn also. I love new friends. Okay, so thing 1, know what stage you're at, startup versus scale up. I thought Deel was a startup. I think a lot of tech, it's startup, or kind of big FANG company. But when I got to Deel, I realized that it's actually a scale up, and it's important to know the difference between the two and where you're at. My key takeaway for that is that it's important to keep a pulse on what's changing around you and your team and in your company, so you know what processes are getting strained and you can make changes before something breaks. So when I got to Deel, I thought, oh, startup. But I was employee number 180. And so that means that Deel already had a product, it had customers, it had product market fit. And I wasn't here to build the very first thing. I was here to iterate on what we had, to make it better, and to help us build processes and internal tools and systems that we could scale and grow efficiently. And it's really important to understand what's moving around you and what's growing so that you know what you need to change before it breaks. So for us, we had a stand-up that was every day, and it was everybody that had to do with payments, from operations to developers to design. And that worked totally fine when that team was 6, 8, 10 people. But I realized, honestly, a little too late, that it wasn't working so fine when our team was suddenly 28 people. And you can't get 28 people to talk in a 15-minute meeting. Doesn't make sense. And I say don't wait too long to make a change when you start to notice that the way you did something a week or a month or 2 months ago isn't working anymore. So that's thing 1. Know where you are and how the growth's affecting your team. The second thing, good things for the business often mean big problems for our team. Like I said, Deel is growing really fast. And that means we need to balance focusing on building things for our customers that are brand new and wonderful, with really strengthening the internal things that we have that make our core products work. If I think about that, Deel has gone from 4 million to 50 million in revenue and is growing incredibly quickly. I know that the things inside that we've built to move money for payments need to be automated. If you're not automated, that means that every month of growth is more and more manual effort, and you can't keep hiring linearly to do all of that. And even when you get something that's 98% automated, that last 2% is a growing effort for your teammates when your company is growing so quickly. And so the good things of more business, more revenue, more customers, more growth means it's putting strain internally on the specifically internal parts of the business for us. So when I got to Deel, I thought about, okay, like what do we want to do for our customers in payments? What are the cool, great things we want to build for them? And I looked internally and did a lot of root cause analysis of what were the things our customers needed or were struggling with. And I discovered that a lot of that could really be improved if we improved our own internal processes and tooling to make payments more reliable and quicker for our customers. And so if you actually look at the Deel website, the Deel LinkedIn page, the Deel Instagram account, you'll see these cool features that we've built, like crypto payouts and integrations with Brex. And I think those things are great. Like doing stuff like that really does push our business forward and offers new value to our customers. But I'm also really, really proud of the things that you don't see, of the things that we built inside internally to automate, to improve processes, to reduce the manual effort, to increase reliability. It's made the lives of our operations team members and our developers much better, and it's made the product for our customers much better. And so I think a big takeaway for startups and scale-ups is balance all the cool new stuff with the really important internal stuff that's going to help you scale and keep growing without breaking. So number 3, speed matters. Done is better than perfect. I think scale doesn't really matter if you're not doing it at speed. And I use a work in progress mentality to help me get over my own need for perfection. So at Deel, we have something called Deel Speed. It's a core value of Deel. It's a big part of the culture of the way we do things. It's, keep moving, keep improving, keep getting stuff out there for customers. And I actually experienced Deel Speed before I even joined Deel. During my interview process, I remember my last interview was with our CEO. And so that's obviously slightly nerve-wracking. And he emails me to set up a time and he says, actually, you know what? I'm free in 20 minutes. Do you want to join a call? I was like, yes, absolutely. The person inside of me who loves preparing was like, oh, okay. But I know that Deel Speed is a big core value of how we get things done. So let's do it. I'm on board. And ever since then, I've really pushed myself to get into the culture of Deel Speed, and here's how I've done it. I've thought a lot about, instead of it being perfect, it being a work in progress. And that for me has been a process. My first several years of working, I focused a lot on perfection. So I worked for a member of Congress who had such a care for detail, for all of the information for each constituent. Everything needed to be like remembered and categorized. And then I worked in private wealth management, where I managed money for really, really wealthy families. And all of that communication, all of that information, again, needed to be extremely accurate and precise. And when I come to Deel, Deel Speed, I don't want to lose the my own standard of excellence for precision, and I don't think Deel does either. It's not about losing the detail and the precision. It's just about making moves quickly so you can keep improving along the way instead of waiting for perfection. And so what I do is I think about, oh, this is a work in progress. So it's not done yet. It's not perfect, but let me share my information and my work early and often. Let me be really transparent about where we are. So here's the roadmap. It's a work in progress. I welcome your feedback. Here is the design for that new project. It's a work in progress. Here's where we are today. And that has really helped me get over this need for making things really perfect and not sharing until I feel like they're ready. The other part sometimes is just kind of getting over the need for perfection in things that don't matter. Not everything matters 100%. And so I think about an example where in Deel, we use video demos to show new features. So I'll record a demo of something new that we're launching and share it with the company so that they can see how it works, they can train themselves, they can tell clients. And I'll find that I'm doing take number 8, 9, 10. I'm like, whoa, Christina, you gotta settle down. You do not need 9 takes of how this, very specific internal tool works. Take number 1, 2, or 3 probably had all of the right information. And so sometimes I just need to tell myself, no, like done is better than perfect. This is the kind of thing where you need to say, okay, and we're moving on. Okay, number 4, people are key. I think it's really important to make time to build relationships with teammates, even when you feel stressed or pressured for time. Part of me thinks this is super obvious and true at every company, but I think it becomes extra important and extra difficult in startups for a couple of reasons. So I think it's really important because in startups, the information isn't always categorized and documented perfectly. There isn't a specific process. There isn't always historical things written down that you can look at. A lot of that has been built really quickly. It was built informally, and there's informal networks of knowledge, and there's the person who knows this and the person who knows that, and why we built something this way and what we tried before that didn't work. And so it's extra important in a startup, I think, to know people and be able to know who to ask for help. I think it's also really important when we work in a remote environment. So Deel is 100% remote company. My team spans, last I counted, 12 countries and 10 time zones. So that means that we're spread all over the world. We don't see each other in person all the time. We're not sitting next to each other. And so it's really important also to build relationships so that we get to know the working styles of each other, how the motivations, like what people enjoy working on. And, honestly, for me, it becomes less stressful when I'm in large team meetings, when I can look around and instead of it being 18 people that are all judging me, it's actually 18 people that I have really good relationships with, who know that I'm a really credible leader and that they know what I'm bringing to the table, and I know that I know what they're bringing. So I think building individual relationships is super key. But when I first got to Deel, this was stressful for me because I could feel the energy of the Slack and of people shipping products and answering questions and kind of working away quickly. And I didn't want to take people's time. And I think that's silly. But it's I think a normal feeling to see that someone's busy, you don't want to take their time. And so the way that I got over this was I set up 15 minutes every 2 weeks with each of my team members. And I thought 15 minutes, that won't kill their schedule. It's just a little bit of time, but it's on a regular cadence where we'll get to know each other. I also tried to make sure that it was near other meetings that they had, so it didn't interrupt their day. If you've ever read, I think it's Paul Graham's blog on the maker's schedule versus the manager's schedule, it talks about how we kind of approach time differently, which I found really useful. So I tried to make it as unintrusive as possible. And I found that those were super useful. I now know my teammates. I know what their pets' names are. I know what they like about their job. And I know when I ask them a question, I'm less stressed about it. And I know that they come to me with questions much more quickly. And so I think it's really important to build relationships with your teammates. It will, I think, make you a happier employee. I think the people you work with are really what builds your energy and your happiness in the day-to-day for the most part. And I think it'll help you work more efficiently. Who to go to, where to get answers from. It's just a more efficient way to work in the long run and a happier way. Okay. Number 5, have fun experimenting and embrace failure. I try to make a habit of trying new things pretty frequently. And I think it's not failure if you're learning from it and you're getting better for the future. So I think it is failure if you do the same thing over and over again, you don't learn from it, or you don't look back on your experiment and think, how did that go and what can I do better? But for a place like Deel that's moving so quickly, it's already impossible to do the same thing over and over again. I've already talked about how if you do the same process, it's going to break. You can't do that when your company's changing and growing so much. But for me, looking at it as an experiment makes it far less nerve-wracking or stressful to try out something new if I don't know it's going to work. So I think about the way that we've done grooming meetings for our developers. We started with everybody in one meeting, and that was kind of painful because a lot of people didn't talk, and it was too in the weeds on one project, and we didn't have enough time for the other ones. So then we said, oh, okay, let's take this a different route. let's do individual. So my tech lead and I did one-on-one meetings with each of our engineers, and we'd have 7 45-minute meetings a week. And that was a lot of time, but we definitely got more in the weeds on the projects, except our engineers didn't know what each other were doing, and they didn't talk to each other anymore. So we're like, all right, this isn't working either. So then we tried, let's do project-based. So we'll have a few engineers in it. We can mix it up so they'll get to know each other. They'll have kind of backup on a project. And that's worked better, but I sense it's still not quite perfect. And we'll probably iterate on part of it and get better. But I like to think it's not failure if you learn from it. And so it's really important to make a habit of trying new things, think of it as an experiment and continuing to improve. Pretty similar to the way that we ship an MVP of a product and then improve from there, just experiment and go. And the last thing, get the feedback you need. I think it's important to get feedback from a lot of different perspectives. And I find it really useful to ask people targeted questions to get them to start talking. So as product managers, I think we get a lot of feedback. People tell me at least all the time, this is broken, I don't understand this button, why is it this color, this client wants this new thing. And I find that I give a lot of feedback, but it's very specific to a project. Like, this design doesn't make sense, or we're missing this flow. Why are we building it in that way? Can we scope it down a little bit more? But what I think is really key is getting feedback on how we're doing. I think that's important for 2 reasons. One is, to me, the obvious, like good for career development, good for learning, good for getting better as a person. The other, which I think is a little more connected to startups, is it's really key for your culture. Like when you're at a startup, you're helping build not just the product, not just the process, but you're building the team and you're building the culture. So when I started at Deel, our team was much smaller, and we have, gotten bigger and doubled and tripled in size. And the way that we run our team gets more and more important as it touches more and more team members. And it also gets harder and harder to change over time as it gets embedded with team members who've been there for a while, and the team is bigger and bigger. So getting feedback really tells me, am I building the culture I want? And do I need to change anything to get there? So the way that I go about getting feedback is 2 things here. One, I like to ask different people for different perspectives. So don't want to just ask my manager or the directors for their perspective. I want to ask the designer, all of the different engineers, QA team, stakeholders and other teams, and the directors and tech leads and stuff like that. Because it's really important to get feedback from different perspectives, almost like a 360-degree feedback you would get during a performance review. But it's not, part of it's on you and part of it's, how's your team running? And that's really important to get, not just one perspective. But that's who to ask. What I discovered at Deel is how you ask is really key, because I started by asking, hey, I like feedback. Can you let me know any feedback you have? And I would get, yeah, everything's fine. Seems great. Doing good. Can't think of any. I'll get back to you. Let me think about it. That's not really helpful for me. And so what I discovered was if I ask somebody a very specific question, like, what could I do in that presentation to have made it go better? Or how do you feel about the change from a 1-week sprint to a 2-week sprint? I get more specific answers. And I think this is for a couple of reasons. One, it gives the person the focus that they need. So instead of me asking them to think of everything that's been happening and pick something to give me feedback on, I sort of take that onus away from them and I just let them focus on one thing. And then it gives them the opportunity to give feedback. It's opening the door. I'm inviting them. I'm saying this specific thing. What do you think about it? And finally, if I take the feedback gracefully and also I action it, it shows them that I can take feedback and they can become more comfortable giving me feedback in the future about things I asked for, or even proactively things I haven't asked for yet. So I think it's really key to get feedback so you can become a better product manager, and also you can build a team and a culture that you want and make sure that like what you're doing is sticking in the way that you intend it to. So you're building things purposefully and not just having them happen because the world is moving quickly around you. So ask for feedback from lots of different directions and use really specific questions to get people to start talking. And that's the recap I have for helping you get up to speed faster. When I prepared for this talk, I looked back on my application to speak at the Women in Product Conference, and the very final question there was, why do you want to speak? And my answer is what I said in the beginning. I said very specifically, it took me 6 months to transition from feeling like a lost imposter to a credible leader at Deel. I want to help other women get there faster. I really hope that at least one of these things helps you get there faster and maybe more. And I'd invite you to go home, or you are home probably, but to take some time to think about how some of this you could implement in your own work. So how can you kind of better identify what stage your company's at and what that means for the growth you're experiencing? How can you identify problems that are probably coming up soon that you need to plan for and to change proactively? How can you maybe finish things that you're focusing on perfection and you can get more of a done mentality, or share things more quickly with a work in progress model? Are there people on your team that you should be spending more time with, but you keep pushing it off because of time and stress? Can you experiment with stuff? Is there something that you have been thinking about trying but have been nervous about? Like, can you try experimenting with it and see how it goes? And lastly, are there people you should be asking for feedback from? Can you change how you get feedback so that you make sure that you're getting the information you need and getting better every day? And with that, thank you for your time. It's been fun. I look forward to talking to you at the Q&A. Feel free again to find me on LinkedIn. Thank you.